Well, we've come a long way this week. We've traversed a lot of territory, and we haven't moved at all. We haven't gone anywhere. Nothing has changed. Nothing is new. Nothing is old. Nothing is lost. Nothing is gained. We can perceive that we leave retreat and then return to ordinary life, and then things get challenging again, as far as suffering, as far as being in our mind, as far as struggle and getting mind identified and being sidetracked and all. But it doesn't really work that way. You might think of it in the opposite way, that what we call retreat here is our pause, to give ourselves time and space to come into direct contact with our true nature, the true nature of all things and all non-things. And that's always here. It's always here. And so you can return to this retreat any moment in the day, any moment that you just remember, that wordless something that's always in your experience, never lost, doesn't need to be found. It's always there. You can touch into that in any moment. It can also come to you, and often does. So be open to it. Be open to that experience. Be open to the possibility that one sound will suddenly be the most pure sound you've ever heard. Be open to the possibility that taking one breath can be the exhaustion of all that is. Taking the entire universe in as we breathe in and expelling the entire universe as we breathe out. This can happen at any moment, and it happens at every moment. We can also take time to sit in quietude, silence, just completely disengage from the usual trappings of the mind, the usual momentum of the mind. We can do this for 5 minutes. We can do this for 10 minutes. We can do this for 30 minutes. Once a day, twice a day, whatever you have time for. You can always return here instantaneously, immediately, because you've never left here. This is the teaching beneath the teaching. You don't have to do anything to be on retreat. You don't have to do anything to come into contact with your true nature. So keep that in your heart. Keep it in your gut, in your spirit. And that will align you with something that's altogether beyond what you know, what you remember, what you've learned. All the storyline of the apparent physical manifestation of you in this life goes beyond all of that. And you're in contact with it. And that alignment will refine itself over time. There will be times when feel like you're completely out of contact. You feel like you're out of alignment. And that's perfectly okay. Nothing's out of alignment. Never has been. But it can feel like that. Those thoughts, those judgment thoughts, those doubt thoughts, or just the racing mind that just goes on and on about what seems to be going on, what I need to do, all of it. It's okay. It takes 1 second to break that spell. It takes less than a second to remember that's just a thought. The whole history of that thought about me, this problem I've had for so many years, that's just one thought repeating itself again and again and again, kind of hypnotizing us. But it is just one thought. And you break that spell the moment you recognize it as a thought. And then you recognize there is no past here. And I don't need a past here. There's also no future here, and I don't need a future. There's not a problem here, unless I think about a problem. And I don't need a problem here. There's nothing to seek here, and I don't need to seek. That's the simple truth of the moment, always. So we always have that. It's always here, always available. It can seem like when we return to our usual interactions with people that we have to explain something, or we have to find a way to integrate this with that interaction with that person, that relationship, that partner, or whatever. You don't. Don't worry about it. It takes care of itself. Everything takes care of itself. This is so real that it's already you. It's already them. It's already the interaction. It's already the confusion about the interaction. You don't need to manage any of it. It takes care of itself. And at the same time, this is a solitary journey. Even if you're in a close relationship with a partner who's also on the same journey, it's still a solitary journey. There's no free pass there. But the beauty of that is you have inward access to it at all times. Whether you're interacting with someone, whether you're by yourself, whether you're on vacation, whether you're feeling intense emotional experiences, whether it's heady, whether you feel extremely calm, it's still just there, just this, that simple all the time. Nothing needs managed or addressed. Banki had a beautiful thing he'd say, everything is perfectly managed in the unborn. And everything is perfectly managed in the unborn. Doesn't need your help. Doesn't need your understanding, acknowledgement, none of it, actually. When you acknowledge it, you sort of bring it into the human dimension for yourself for a while, until you can't even find a division between what feels like the human dimension or yourself and the unborn. All boundaries will collapse at some point or dissolve slowly. But you can always invite that mystery in. If maybe you don't know what the unborn is, or it sounds cool and poetic, but you don't have a direct resonation with it yet. That's fine. Just bring that mystery into your experience. Invite it in. Be open to it. Be open to the mystery, and it will reveal itself in your life in ways that may not be what you thought they would at all. It can be very surprising, often with disruption, often with disappointment, often with things falling apart. That's when the surprise comes, the mystery reveals itself. Tragedy, confusion, strange experiences, illness, like these things come, they happen. And often that's where this mystery is revealed in a very direct and visceral way. And sometimes it's totally random, uncaused, just there. So one piece of advice I sometimes give as we come to the end of the retreat in the relative sense is cultivate a sort of openness. And everyone's different. Some people are already pretty open. Some people have a lot of openness naturally, or they've already cultivated it. Other people tend to be a little bit more narrow or a little bit more in the head or whatever. That's not quite what I'm talking about. It's more like an openness to a mystery that is so beyond your temporal understanding that you sort of have to be open at the deepest level to receive it in a way. Trying to just allow yourself to open up that way. It can be valuable. And it might look to the body-mind or the mind like you're almost moving through the day, moving through life, just looking a little deeper into everything. Is it there? Is it revealing itself there? Taking into account the possibility that it is revealing itself even if you're not completely appreciating it. Maybe it's right there. Maybe when you're standing in line at the grocery store and your mind is going on, and you suddenly notice your feet touching the floor, maybe it's right there. Be open to it. Be open to that possibility. And you might be surprised what reveals itself and how it reveals itself. Be open to the possibility that it reveals itself within an emotion. Be open to the possibility that reveals itself within thought, within consciousness. Maybe that's all we can really do, is just have some openness, a willingness to be open. a little bit more than we were before, perhaps. But open to a mystery, open to something that's beyond us, beyond our limited way of seeing the world through the symbolic mind structures of subject, object, space, time, person, object, all of it. If you remain open in that way, open to the mystery, carrying that with you, carrying that possibility with you throughout the day. You may notice at some point, or you may not, it doesn't matter, but you may notice that like kind of a big opening coming. Something just feels like it's really opening up. And you know it. You know, like, okay, this is something. this is profound. But you won't know what it is. You won't know how to talk about it or think about it. But you'll feel it if this starts to open. And in that case, just really give your full attention to it. Give your heart to it. Sit. Stop if you can, if you have the opportunity to sit with that. Just let that opening unfold itself. This will happen to everyone here in small ways. Some will be noticed, some won't. It may sort of open itself in a very obvious way too. Doesn't have to, doesn't matter. But again, it's the openness. Instead of walking through the world with a narrow mind and a narrow attention, just focusing on the next thing you want or next thing you want to cause to happen or whatever, just be open to something else that is beyond you, showing itself, revealing itself, inwardly, outwardly, both. When we get towards the end of retreat, we don't always realize it, but our body minds are often quite exhausted. And yet we've developed this joriki, this meditative concentration, which it's a very high energy. It's powerful. It's a powerful energy. You may feel like you don't need to sleep as much. You may feel like it's very easy to get into conversations with people, very intense interactions. Things like that may come very spontaneously, and that's all fine. But I always caution people for the first few days, especially, take it easy. Just really take it easy. Like, it's better to have a soft landing. You'll have plenty of time for re-engaging and everything. You have a day and a half maybe before you have to go back to work or whatever. Take the time. And even when you go back to work in the evenings, maybe set aside some time to just sit, really sit a lot or lay down, but be in presence, be in unstructured presence as much as you can over the next week to 2 weeks. And it will soften the landing. The one thing in particular that really gets people bound up is, without realizing it, getting into like really heady conversations, especially spiritual conversations, like going and telling everybody everything that happened during the retreat for you. I don't recommend it, actually. It seems strange, but I would just like hold off on that for a while. Let yourself process it, especially philosophical things and all that. Because that energy, that joriki energy, can easily be translated through mind, through thought, very easily. It's powerful. But we've spent a week calming the mind, actually, breaking the spell of using all of the energy in our body to move our mind machine constantly. So don't return to that right away. It's very easy to do. So just give it some time, let it settle. So walk in nature. Take some time in solitude. Take it easy. Meditate. And you will see the integration, the effects, and all that over time. It'll reveal itself. You may not notice anything immediately. It may take some time. You may feel even energetically a little wound up for a while, more than you would expect after a retreat. Partially that's because you're just suddenly interfacing with a bunch of other people who have that mental energy. And that's okay. That'll settle as well. So don't make any judgments or conclusions about retreat. Just give yourself space. And some quietude.